The wind on Calith 9 carried the scent of copper and ancient stone. Commander Jarek Holt sat outside his crude shelter, a repurposed military pod half buried in the rust-colored sand, watching the twin suns sink below the horizon. His mechanical left arm whirred softly as he raised a dented flask to his lips. The liquor burned, but not enough to drown the memories. He had chosen this world deliberately. Calith 9 was marked uninhabited on every star chart, its atmosphere breathable but inhospitable, its ruins testament to a civilization that had collapsed millennia ago. Perfect for a man who wanted to be forgotten. The war had ended 3 years ago. Humanity had won barely against the Krillian Dominion. Jarek had led the final assault on their flagship, watched his crew burn in the void, and emerged a hero he never wanted to be. The medals felt like anchors. The parades felt like mockery. So he'd taken his pension, bought a one-way ticket to the edge of charted space, and disappeared. He expected to die here, quietly, alone, on his own terms. What he didn't expect was her. The first time Lyra appeared, Jarek thought the isolation had finally broken his mind. She stood at the edge of his camp, barely reaching his waist, her skin a soft, luminescent blue that pulsed gently in the fading light. 4 eyes blinked at him in sequence, and delicate antennae twitched above her head. "You're real," she said in broken standard, her voice like wind chimes. Jarek's hand had moved to his sidearm instinctively. "Get lost, kid." She tilted her head, unfazed by the weapon. "You're the angry metal man grandmother spoke of. I'm not." He stopped, lowering the gun. "There are people here?" "In the deep places." She gestured toward the ruins that jutted from the sand like broken teeth. "We stay hidden. Always hidden. But I saw your fire. Then stay hidden." Jarek turned his back on her. "I didn't come here for company." But she returned the next day. And the next. Each time, Jarek tried to drive her away with growls and curses that would have made his old sergeant proud. Each time, Lyra simply sat at the edge of his camp, watching him with those 4 curious eyes, asking questions in her halting standard. "Why do you have metal parts?" "War. What is war?" "Something your people are lucky to have forgotten." "Why are you alone?" "Because I want to be." That's sad. Jarek had no answer for that. Weeks passed. Despite himself, Jarek began to tolerate her presence. Then, almost imperceptibly, he began to expect it. She brought him things from the ruins. Strange crystalline structures that hummed when touched, fragments of ancient technology, flowers that bloomed only at night. He pretended not to care, but he noticed she always chose the brightest colors. One evening, she arrived with blood seeping through a crude bandage on her arm. Jarek was on his feet before conscious thought. What happened? "Rock slide in the deep places." She winced as he examined the wound with surprisingly gentle mechanical fingers. "It's nothing. It's infected." He disappeared into his shelter, returning with a medkit that had seen better days. As he cleaned and sealed the wound with synthetic skin, she watched his face intently. "You were a healer? I was a soldier. But soldiers learn to patch each other up." He finished the application, his jaw tight. "You should be more careful. Will you teach me?" "Teach you what?" "To be careful. To be strong. Like humans." Jarek laughed, a bitter sound. "Kid, being human isn't about being strong. It's about being stupid enough to fight when you should run, stubborn enough to stand when you should fall, and broken enough to keep going when every piece of you wants to quit." Lyra's antennae quivered. "That is strong." He had no answer for that either. The breakthrough came during the monsoon season. Jarek woke to find Lyra huddled outside his shelter, drenched and shivering. The ruins had flooded, she explained, and her people had retreated to the highest chambers. But she'd been afraid he would be alone. "You little idiot," he muttered, pulling her inside. He wrapped her in his thermal blanket, started a heating element, and made something approximating tea from local plants she'd shown him. As the storm raged outside, she fell asleep against his shoulder. Jarek sat rigid, aware of the weight of this small life, trusting him completely. His hand, the flesh one, hovered over her head, then gently patted her antennae. Something inside his chest, something he thought had died with his crew, cracked open. "Commander Holt," she murmured, half asleep. "Is that really your name?" "Just Jarek, and yeah, it is. Will you stay Jarek?" "On Calith 9? He looked at her sleeping face, so peaceful, so trusting. He thought about the empty years stretching ahead, the slow fade he'd planned. He thought about her questions, her gifts, her stubborn refusal to let him disappear. Maybe, he said softly, for a while. When the storms passed, Lyra led him to the deep places. Her people emerged cautiously, tall, graceful beings who watched him with recognition and fear. They'd hidden since their world fell, she explained. They'd survived by staying invisible. But Jarek saw something else. He saw people who'd forgotten how to live, only how to exist. Over the following months, Jarek taught them. Not war, never war, but resilience. How to reinforce structures, purify water, cultivate the hardy crops humans had perfected on hostile worlds. He shared human stories of rebuilding, of persistence, of finding hope in ashes. And slowly, impossibly, Calith 9 began to feel less like a grave and more like a home. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set together, Lyra asked, "Are you still waiting to die, Jarek?" He considered his mechanical arm, the scars beneath his shirt, the weight of memories that would never fully fade. Then he looked at her, at the settlement growing around them, at the life they were building. "No," he said finally. "I think I'm learning to live instead." She smiled, her bioluminescence brightening. "Good, because we need you." And for the first time in years, Commander Jarek Holt believed someone actually did.